The first-class cabin was silent, the kind of silence that makes you feel small. 10-year-old Rebecca Owens sat quietly, clutching her worn backpack, trying not to draw attention. She only wanted a glass of water. Instead, the flight attendant's voice cracked like a whip. "Shut up, kid!" Gasps filled the air, but no one moved. No one spoke. Eyes turned away as if she didn't exist. What no one knew was this quiet child carried a secret powerful enough to shake the entire airline and bring its most ruthless leaders to their knees. And it all began with that single cruel word. The soft hum of the aircraft engines filled the cabin like a lullaby, smooth and constant, as the first-class passengers settled into their leather seats. The smell of expensive perfume and the faint scent of champagne floated in the air. It was the kind of atmosphere where everyone either buried their faces in tablets and books or simply closed their eyes behind noise-canceling headsets, pretending the rest of the world did not exist. In seat 1A, a little girl sat alone. Rebecca Owens, only 10 years old, barely reached the edge of the wide armrest. Her feet dangled a few inches above the plush carpet, nervously kicking back and forth. She was dressed simply, a pale blue hoodie, jeans with frayed knees, and sneakers slightly scuffed from too many playgrounds. No shiny jewelry, no designer bags, none of the visual signals first-class passengers often use to silently say, "I belong here." Rebecca didn't look like she belonged here. That was the point. She had begged her father to let her travel alone, like a normal passenger. No assistance, no one knowing her last name was Owens. The same name painted on the tail of the very jet she was sitting in. She just wanted to feel what it was like to be invisible, to disappear into the crowd like any other 10-year-old. The flight had been smooth so far, but her mouth was dry. Rebecca hesitated for a moment, clutching the frayed strap of her backpack before pressing the call button. She didn't like asking strangers for anything, but thirst pushed her past her usual shyness. A flight attendant appeared moments later, smiling warmly. At least at first. Amanda Carter was tall, perfectly groomed, and radiated the polished professionalism expected in first class. But when she noticed who had pressed the call button, her expression changed ever so slightly. Her smile tightened, the corners of her mouth stiff. "Yes?" Amanda asked, her tone flat. Rebecca smiled politely, voice soft. "May I have some water, please?" Amanda blinked, glanced at the child's casual clothes, then looked toward the man sitting across the aisle, a businessman wearing a Rolex. "Just a moment," she said quickly and turned her attention to the man instead. "Would you like another champagne, sir?" Amanda asked, her voice sweet and melodic, like she had switched masks entirely. The man chuckled and nodded. Amanda disappeared toward the galley, leaving Rebecca sitting quietly, staring at her hands. Minutes passed. 10 minutes. 15. The little light above Rebecca's seat still glowed. She swallowed hard and pressed the button again. Amanda reappeared, face tight with irritation. "Yes, what is it now?" she asked, though her voice still carried the sing-song tone used on passengers. Barely. Rebecca's voice trembled a little. I'm still waiting for water. Please." Amanda's face hardened, annoyance flashing in her eyes. She leaned slightly closer, her voice dropping its professional mask entirely. "Shut up, kid!" The words sliced through the quiet like a whip. The businessman froze mid-sip. A woman, clutching her Louis Vuitton purse, gasped softly but looked away. A couple 2 rows behind exchanged awkward glances and then buried their faces in their phones. The silence after Amanda's words was deafening. Rebecca's cheeks flushed crimson, eyes wide as if she had been slapped. Her throat closed up and she stared down at her lap, willing herself not to cry. This was not supposed to happen. She had dreamed of being just another passenger, not special, not different, just normal. But now, she felt smaller than ever, like she had been shoved into an invisible box marked unwanted. Amanda, realizing perhaps she had gone too far, straightened and adjusted her uniform. "I'll bring you water. Later," she said curtly and walked away. Her heels clicked sharply against the cabin floor. the sound like nails hammering shame into Rebecca's ears. No one spoke. No one intervened. Eyes darted briefly toward the little girl, then quickly away, as if acknowledging what had just happened would make them responsible. It was easier to pretend they hadn't heard. Rebecca gripped her backpack tighter, nails digging into the worn fabric. She had been bullied at school before, but this felt different. This wasn't kids on a playground. This was an adult, someone who was supposed to protect passengers, treat them kindly, especially children. Yet here she was, told to shut up in front of people who wouldn't even look at her. Her breathing trembled. She bit her lip hard enough to taste a hint of copper, trying to keep from crying. Her father's voice echoed in her head. Sometimes silence is strength, Rebecca. But right now, silence felt like defeat. Unseen by most, in the very back corner of the first-class cabin, a man lowered his tablet and quietly reached into his pocket. He was older, maybe in his late 40s, with graying hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. The man raised his phone and, pretending to check messages, began recording. The lens focused on Amanda walking away, on Rebecca's small figure hunched in her seat, and on the other passengers pretending none of this existed. He didn't smile, didn't frown, just kept recording as if he had expected something like this to happen. When Amanda disappeared behind the curtain separating first class from the galley, the man saved the clip, slipped the phone back into his pocket, and sat back like nothing unusual had happened. Rebecca didn't see him. She sat frozen, staring out the window at the endless clouds, trying to push the humiliation down deep inside. The tears she refused to shed burned behind her eyes, but she blinked them away. She would not give Amanda the satisfaction. What Rebecca didn't know, and what no one in that cabin could guess, was that her silence, her humiliation, had just been captured. That one small recording would soon ripple through an entire corporation, through an entire industry, shaking the foundations of people far more powerful than one rude flight attendant. But for now, she sat still, small hands gripping the armrest, listening to the soft hum of the engines and the deafening silence of human indifference. Rebecca sat stiffly in her seat long after Amanda had disappeared behind the galley curtain. Her small fingers dug into the worn straps of her backpack, as though holding onto it could anchor her in a world that had just shifted under her feet. She had expected this flight to be different, a chance to feel normal, to travel like any other child. But instead, she felt like she had been painted with an invisible mark, something that screamed, "You don't belong here!" A tear slid down her cheek before she could stop it. She brushed it away quickly, looking around to see if anyone had noticed. No one had. Every passenger had buried themselves deeper into books, devices, or closed eyes, pretending the outburst never happened. The indifference hurt worse than Amanda's words. Rebecca turned toward the oval window, staring at the rolling clouds below. They looked soft, like a world where nothing could hurt her. But she knew better. The sky had always been a symbol of freedom in her family, but freedom hadn't saved her mother. Her mother had been kind and soft-spoken, someone who smiled at strangers even when they didn't smile back. Rebecca had been only 7 when she watched her mother break down after an incident at an upscale department store. The clerk had accused her mother of shoplifting simply because she didn't look like she belonged there. Security had been called, her mother humiliated in front of Rebecca and dozens of strangers. Later, when the misunderstanding was cleared up, no one apologized. Not really. Her mother had cried in the car all the way home, whispering, "Some people will only see what they want to see." 2 months later, her mother was gone. An illness that came quickly and left Rebecca with nothing but memories of soft lullabies and that final lesson about how cruel people could be. Rebecca wiped her tears now, not wanting to look weak. Her father had always said, "Strength isn't about shouting the loudest, Rebecca. It's about standing when everything tells you to sit down." He should know. Richard Owens wasn't just any father. He was the founder of Owens Global Airlines, the name printed on the tail of the jet they were flying on right now. He had built the airline from a single leased aircraft into one of the largest carriers in the country. To Rebecca, though, he was just Dad, the man who cooked breakfast on Sundays and still burned the pancakes. But no one here knew that. No one knew the little girl in seat 1A was the only daughter of the man who owned the very plane they were sitting on. Rebecca had insisted that no one arrange special treatment or escorts. She wanted this trip to be her own. Just one normal flight, she had begged, like any other passenger. Her father had reluctantly agreed, and now she sat there, stung by words that echoed louder than the engines outside. "Shut up, kid." She hugged her backpack to her chest, trying to push the memory of her mother and Amanda's cruel tone into some deep corner of her mind. Yet the voices wouldn't stop. A cough from behind startled her slightly. She turned and caught a glimpse of the man in the last row of first class, the one she hadn't noticed before. He was middle-aged, wearing a dark blazer, a simple dress shirt open at the collar, and glasses perched low on his nose. He had the kind of face you'd forget in a crowd, except for the eyes. Sharp, observant, always scanning like a camera lens. He gave a small nod, almost imperceptible, before returning his attention to a tablet on his lap. Rebecca blinked and turned back around, uneasy. Something about him felt deliberate, like he wasn't here to relax. What Rebecca didn't know, what no one else in that cabin knew, was that his name was Ethan Cole, a former investigative journalist. Once, he had been one of the most respected reporters covering the airline industry. He had won awards for exposing corruption, unsafe maintenance practices, and even a scandal involving airline executives misusing passenger data. One of his biggest investigations? Owens Global Airlines. That story had cost him everything. Ethan had been fired from his newspaper after the airline's legal team sued aggressively, claiming defamation. Though he had been vindicated in court years later, the damage was done. No major outlet would hire him again. He had quietly disappeared from headlines, working odd freelance jobs, always chasing that one big break that might restore his reputation. So, what was Ethan doing here, quietly recording a flight attendant berating a 10-year-old girl? He glanced again at Rebecca when she wasn't looking, tapping his phone screen. The video clip of Amanda's outburst was safely stored, and already he was thinking about what it might mean. On the surface, it was a simple case of bad customer service. But Ethan had an instinct, one honed from years of chasing stories most people didn't want to hear, that told him this was bigger. This wasn't just about one rude attendant. There was something wrong in the culture of the airline itself. He had felt it when he lost his career exposing them. And now, watching this little girl shrink into her seat under the weight of everyone's silence, he felt it again. Rebecca, unaware of Ethan's quiet observation, closed her eyes and tried to steady her breathing. She thought about her father and how proud he had been when she said she wanted to see the airline like a regular customer. Would he still be proud if he knew what had happened? Or would he be angry? At Amanda, at the passengers, at himself for letting her go alone? She wasn't sure. All she knew was that she didn't want to tell him. Not yet. The engines droned on, carrying the plane closer to its destination. Rebecca opened her eyes and stared at the clouds again, wishing her mother were there to tell her it would be okay. In the back of the cabin, Ethan tapped out a note on his phone. Owens Global. Culture issue? Passenger incident. Possible story lead. He looked up, eyes narrowing slightly as they landed on the airline logo embroidered on the headrest near Rebecca's seat. He didn't know yet who she was. He didn't know she was the daughter of the man who had once destroyed his career. But fate had a strange sense of timing, and soon, both of their worlds would collide in ways neither of them could imagine. The wheels of the aircraft kissed the runway with a soft thud, and the usual shuffle of first-class passengers began. Laptops closing, seatbelts clicking, designer bags lifted from overhead bins. Rebecca stayed seated, clutching her backpack tightly to her chest. She wanted to leave as quickly as possible, but she also dreaded stepping off this plane that had already burned itself into her memory as one of the worst experiences of her young life. When the cabin door finally opened, the warm, recycled airport air swept inside, along with the rising murmur of travelers eager to move on. Rebecca stepped into the jet bridge, her sneakers squeaking faintly against the industrial carpet. She moved quietly among the polished shoes and heels of other passengers until she reached the terminal. The airport was bustling, the usual chaotic blend of rolling suitcases, flashing digital screens, and the faint smell of fast food mingling with coffee. Rebecca adjusted the strap of her backpack and headed toward the baggage claim area. She didn't need to wait for luggage. Everything she had was with her. But something caught her eye near the transfer desk. A small, elderly couple stood nervously in front of a ground staff counter. They were Asian, their clothes modest but tidy, and their English halting. The woman held a worn paper boarding pass. The man tried to explain something about their connecting flight using hand gestures. The staff member behind the counter, a young man in a pressed uniform, barely looked up from his computer. "I already told you, you need to wait," he said flatly, waving his hand dismissively. The old man pointed again to his boarding pass, his voice tinged with panic. "No, late, need change gate. Please, help." The agent sighed, rolling his eyes slightly. "Sir, please step aside. You're holding up the line." Rebecca froze, a chill running through her chest. The tone, the dismissal. It was the same as Amanda's voice on the plane, the same condescending coldness she had seen in the department store years ago when her mother was humiliated. She took an involuntary step closer, her eyes stinging. The old woman clutched her husband's sleeve. Her face flushed from embarrassment as other passengers behind them began to mutter impatiently. "Just wait," the agent repeated, turning back to his computer as if they were invisible. Rebecca's fists clenched at her sides. She could hear her mother's voice in her head. Some people will only see what they want to see. And now she was watching it happen again, to strangers who reminded her painfully of her mother. A tear slid down her cheek before she could stop it. She quickly wiped it away, but the sting in her chest didn't fade. "Excuse me, what's going on here?" The voice cut through the tension like a knife. Rebecca turned to see a tall man striding toward the counter, his polished shoes clicking sharply against the floor. He wore a tailored suit and carried himself with an authority that made people instinctively move aside. "Mr. Hill," the ground staff agent blurted, straightening immediately. Marcus Hill, regional vice president of Owens Global Airlines, flashed a corporate smile that never touched his eyes. He scanned the scene quickly, his gaze landing on the elderly couple before sliding toward Rebecca for half a second, and then back to the agent. "These passengers have a problem?" Marcus asked, though his tone sounded more like an accusation than a question. The agent stammered slightly. Yes, they missed their gate call, and now..." Marcus held up a hand. "Handle it later. Move them aside and keep the line moving. We have metrics to maintain. Delays affect our performance score." His voice was calm, professional, and utterly devoid of compassion. The elderly man opened his mouth to protest again, but Marcus cut him off with a polite but firm tone. "Sir, we'll rebook you on the next flight. Please wait over there." He gestured toward a bench near the wall, not even looking at them again as he spoke. Rebecca's stomach turned. She watched the couple shuffle away, shoulders slumped, eyes downcast, as if they had done something wrong. Marcus turned back to the staff member. "I don't want to see passenger satisfaction scores drop because of long lines. Handle it efficiently, understand?" "Yes, sir," the agent said, visibly relieved. Marcus nodded and turned, already pulling out his phone as he walked away. Rebecca's eyes followed him, anger and sadness mixing in her chest. She wanted to scream that it wasn't about scores, it was about people, but she stayed silent, her small voice drowned by the roar of rolling suitcases and chatter in the terminal. A few steps away, Marcus's phone vibrated. He glanced down, expecting a routine corporate update. Instead, his stride faltered. From unknown.sender@securemail.com. Subject: Do you want this to go public? Body: We have the video. The one where your crew member told a child to shut up, cooperate, or it gets released. Attached was a single image. Rebecca, seated in first class, eyes wide in shock as Amanda loomed over her. The freeze frame alone was damning. Marcus stopped near a column, his face hardening as he opened the attachment again to be sure. Who had filmed this? How had it reached him so fast? He scanned the crowded terminal instinctively, but everyone looked like just another traveler rushing to their next destination. For the first time that day, his polished executive confidence cracked. Someone had leverage over him, and he didn't know who. He quickly typed a response. "Who are you? What do you want?" Almost immediately, another email arrived. "Cooperate, and you'll know soon enough. Ignore this, and the video goes live." Marcus cursed under his breath, shoving the phone back into his pocket and straightening his tie. He glanced around again, his eyes narrowing as they swept over the terminal, over Rebecca, who was still watching the elderly couple on the bench, wiping her eyes. He didn't recognize her. To him, she was just another passenger, a child who had been unlucky enough to cross paths with a careless employee. But the email sender clearly saw her differently. Rebecca turned, catching Marcus's gaze for a brief second. There was something in his eyes, a cold efficiency that made her shiver. She looked away quickly, hugging her backpack closer, unaware that a much bigger storm was now circling around her, triggered by that single cruel sentence on the plane. Marcus walked briskly toward the restricted staff corridor, his mind already racing. Someone had video evidence. Someone had an agenda. And if he didn't handle it quietly, his carefully crafted corporate empire could begin to crack. For Rebecca, the humiliation she had endured felt like an echo now, reverberating through people she had never even met. She didn't know it yet, but the ripple effect of that single moment was spreading, reaching people like Marcus Hill and others far more dangerous. The terminal's chaos faded behind Rebecca as she wandered down a quieter corridor, drawn by the hum of machinery and the smell of aviation fuel. She hadn't meant to stray this far, but after watching the elderly couple humiliated, she couldn't stand to be around people. She needed somewhere, anywhere to breathe. The signs on the walls read, "Authorized personnel only," but no one stopped her. Maybe it was because she walked with the confidence of someone who knew where she was going, even though she didn't. Rebecca turned a corner and nearly collided with a man in coveralls. He was older, his black hair streaked with gray and his hands rough, stained with years of working on machines. The embroidered tag on his chest read, "T. Yamaguchi, Senior Engineer." "Whoa, slow down there, kid," the man said, steadying her with one strong hand. His voice carried a mixture of surprise and warmth. "You're not supposed to be here. Lost?" Rebecca froze, instinctively clutching her backpack. I guess so. I didn't mean to." Tom Yamaguchi crouched slightly to meet her eyes, studying her face with an intensity that felt almost knowing. "You're not a normal passenger, are you?" Rebecca blinked. "What do you mean?" Tom tilted his head, eyes narrowing thoughtfully. "The way you carry yourself, like you're watching everything but trying not to be seen. I've seen that look before." He smiled faintly, but it wasn't unkind. "Don't worry, I'm not going to report you, just... What are you doing back here?" Rebecca hesitated. She didn't want to tell him about the humiliation on the plane, or about her father, or about the secret email threatening Marcus Hill. It was too much for someone she'd just met. "I just needed to get away for a minute." Tom nodded slowly, as though he understood more than she was saying. "Yeah, I know that feeling. Sometimes you have to step away from the noise to remember what's important." Rebecca glanced at him properly now. He looked tough, but his eyes were kind. Tired, maybe, but kind. Something about him felt safe, familiar even. "You work on the planes?" she asked quietly. "For 30 years, Tom replied with a hint of pride. "Every bolt, every circuit. I know these birds better than I know my own house." He paused, then studied her again. "You know, you remind me of someone I met a long time ago." Rebecca tilted her head. "Who?" Tom's eyes softened with memory. "Your mother." Rebecca stiffened. You knew my mom?" Tom nodded, his voice quiet now, almost reverent. "Yeah, it was years ago, back when I was still just a junior mechanic. Your mom, she was standing up for herself when nobody else would. Some supervisor accused her of sneaking into a restricted lounge, Said she didn't look like she belonged. Rebecca's throat tightened. That sounded painfully familiar. I stepped in, Tom continued. Told them she had every right to be there, and I stood by her until they backed off. She thanked me later. Said she hoped one day people would look at the sky and see equality, not division. Rebecca blinked fast, trying to keep her tears in check. She had only scraps of her mother's past, mostly bedtime stories and memories of quiet strength. Hearing this stranger connect to her in such a profound way made her chest ache. She was the best, Rebecca whispered. Tom gave a small nod. Yeah, she was. He hesitated, then added softly, You're her kid, aren't you? I see it in your eyes. That fire? Don't worry, I won't tell anyone. Rebecca clutched her backpack tighter. Thank you, Mr. Yamaguchi. Call me Tom, he said gently. You ever need help? You come find me, okay? Rebecca nodded, and for the first time since the humiliating incident on the plane, she felt a flicker of safety. Just then, footsteps echoed down the corridor. A shadow moved quickly, and the man from the plane, the one who had filmed Amanda's outburst, appeared. Ethan Cole looked different here, less like an anonymous passenger and more like someone on a mission. Tom Yamaguchi? Ethan asked, his voice low but firm. Tom straightened slightly, protective instinct flashing across his face. Who's asking? Ethan pulled out his phone, tapping the screen once to show a still image. Amanda leaning over Rebecca, mouth mid-shout. I'm someone who doesn't like bullies, and I know you don't either. Tom's eyes narrowed. You followed this kid? He stepped subtly in front of Rebecca, shielding her from Ethan's view. Ethan raised one hand in peace. Relax. I'm not here to hurt her. I'm here because we have a common enemy, Marcus Hill. Tom froze. Marcus? Ethan nodded. He's the one pulling strings, protecting toxic employees, burying complaints and ruining people who try to speak up. You know it, I know it. Tom studied him warily. And what's your angle? You some kind of activist? Used to be a journalist, Ethan admitted. Owens Global ended my career when I exposed their shady practices. Now I have proof of something big, but I need help. You've been here 30 years. You know how deep this goes. Tom crossed his arms. You want me to risk my job? Ethan shrugged. I want you to help stop a man who's poisoning this company from the inside out. You think Marcus gives a damn about the mechanics or the passengers? He cares about one thing, his image. And I'm willing to bet he's done worse than protecting one abusive flight attendant. Rebecca looked between them, heart pounding. These were adults. One she barely knew, another she didn't know at all, talking about things she didn't fully understand. But she heard one name clearly, Marcus Hill, the man who had dismissed the elderly couple without blinking. Tom glanced back at Rebecca, then back at Ethan. His jaw tightened. If I say yes, what happens to her? She's not involved, Ethan said firmly. I promise. But as Ethan's eyes met Rebecca's for a brief second, she wasn't so sure. Something about this man felt like he was carrying secrets heavy enough to sink anyone near him. Tom exhaled slowly. All right, I'll hear you out. But if you're playing me, I'm not, Ethan interrupted. Trust me, Tom, you're going to want to see what I've found. Rebecca clutched her backpack tighter, uncertain what she had just stumbled into. But deep inside, something told her this moment. The mechanic who had once protected her mother, the mysterious man with the damning video, and Marcus Hill's name on their lips, was the start of something much bigger than she could imagine. Marcus Hill sat in his corner office, glass walls reflecting the skyline behind him. His jaw tightened as he scrolled through the anonymous email again, the still frame of Amanda shouting at Rebecca frozen on his tablet screen. Whoever had sent it wasn't bluffing. The video was damning, and if it went public, it wouldn't just be Amanda's problem. It would stain the company brand and his own spotless executive reputation. Marcus leaned back, fingers tapping on the desk, then picked up the phone. Get me Amanda Carter, he ordered. Minutes later, Amanda entered nervously, eyes darting around the room. She still hadn't fully recovered from the confrontation on the plane or the whispers circulating among crew members since then. Marcus didn't waste time. "We have a problem, Amanda," he said coolly, sliding the tablet across the desk. "Recognize this?" Amanda's face paled. That's me." "Yes," Marcus said. "You yelling at a passenger, at a child, and not just any child. Someone's already threatening to leak it. If this goes viral, do you know what that means for me? For you?" Amanda swallowed hard. I didn't mean..." Marcus cut her off sharply. "Intent doesn't matter. What matters is narrative. And right now, the narrative is that you abused a kid. We are not letting that happen." Amanda shifted uneasily. "What do you want me to do?" Marcus slid a folder across the table. Inside was a report. Thick, official-looking. "You're going to sign this. It states the child, Rebecca Owens, was a disruptive, unaccompanied minor who verbally abused you first. It says you acted in self-defense to maintain cabin safety." Amanda's eyes widened. That's not true." Marcus leaned forward, voice dropping to a cold whisper. "Do you want to keep your job, Amanda? Because I can make sure you're promoted. Assistant Chief Purser, double your pay, international routes guaranteed. Or..." He let the silence hang, the unspoken threat obvious. Amanda stared at the papers, hands trembling slightly. Her mind flashed back to Rebecca's small, stunned face on the plane. She's just a kid. But then Marcus's words pressed in on her like a vice. Promotion or unemployment. "Fine," Amanda whispered, signing the report. Marcus smiled faintly. "Good. You've made the smart choice. Now go, and don't mention this to anyone." Amanda nodded, clutching the folder like it was a lifeline, and left. But as she walked down the hallway, she slipped her phone from her pocket, opened the voice recorder, and tapped save. Every word Marcus had said in that room was now stored securely in her personal cloud drive. She didn't trust him, and she needed insurance. Meanwhile, in the security office downstairs, Marcus was already preparing the next step. He summoned 2 uniformed guards and handed them a printed order. "This passenger, Rebecca Owens, 10 years old. She's a disruptive, unaccompanied minor. Corporate wants her removed from the premises immediately. Do it quietly. Don't let anyone record it." The guards exchanged looks. "Sir, she's a child." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "And I'm your boss. Do it." Rebecca sat in the lobby of Owens' global headquarters, clutching her backpack. She had come here hoping to see her father's legacy, the company he built, the one she had believed stood for fairness and opportunity. But now she sat alone, watched by curious employees whispering as they passed. The guards approached. "Miss Owens?" Rebecca stood slowly. "Yes?" One guard cleared his throat. "We need you to come with us." Rebecca frowned. "Why? I didn't do anything." The other guard avoided eye contact. "Orders from management." Rebecca's chest tightened, but she said nothing as they gently but firmly took her by the arms and led her toward the exit. People in the lobby paused, whispering, "What did that kid do? Is she in trouble? Why would they escort a child like that?" Rebecca kept her chin up, eyes steady and unblinking, even as her stomach knotted. She wouldn't cry, not here, not in front of them. Back upstairs, Marcus watched the live security feed on his monitor. Rebecca's small figure between the 2 large guards looked almost absurd, like a sparrow being carried out of an airport hangar. He smirked slightly and leaned back, but then his phone buzzed. A message from Amanda. "Report signed. Expecting confirmation of promotion. AC." Marcus smirked. She thinks she's smart. He typed back quickly. "Done. HR will handle." But as he set the phone down, a thought gnawed at him. Amanda had signed too quickly, too easily. Did she really buy into it? Or... Outside, Rebecca was released onto the sidewalk, her small hands gripping the straps of her backpack as she stared up at the towering glass building. The company logo, her father's legacy, shone above the door, cold and metallic. She whispered to herself, "You can try to push me out, but I'm not done." Her eyes, red but determined, lifted to the skyline, as if searching for her mother's voice somewhere in the clouds. In a coffee shop across the street, Amanda sat alone, earbuds in, listening to the recording she had made. Marcus's voice was crystal clear. "You're going to sign this promotion or unemployment?" She saved a backup to a second cloud account. If Marcus betrayed her, and she was almost certain he would, this was her way out. A shadow fell across her table. Ethan Cole stood there, arms crossed. "Nice insurance policy," he said quietly. Amanda flinched. "How did you—" "I have my ways," Ethan said, sliding into the seat across from her. "And you have a choice. Stay loyal to Marcus, or do the right thing. Because that kid he just dragged out, she's not who you think she is." Amanda hesitated, torn between fear and guilt. For the first time since this nightmare began, she wondered if she had chosen the wrong side. Back in his office, Marcus poured himself a glass of scotch. He thought he had won. But in truth, every move he made was building a bigger trap, and someone, somewhere, was already setting the bait. Rebecca stood at the bus stop, alone but unbroken. The humiliation of being labeled disruptive stung, but she refused to let Marcus or anyone else see her as small. Her silence was not weakness, it was focus. "You can take me out of the building," she thought, "but you can't erase me." Her small hands clenched into fists, her gaze steady. Something inside her had shifted. And from the shadows, Ethan Cole watched quietly, phone in hand, already planning his next move. The next morning, Owens Global's internal servers lit up with a single subject line flooding every inbox. "I am just a child, but I deserve respect." Employees across multiple time zones stopped mid-task to read the message. Some were in maintenance hangars, their hands still smeared with oil. Others sat in plush executive offices with half-drunk cups of coffee. Within minutes, chatter spread across every corridor, break room, and flight attendant lounge. The email read simply, "I didn't yell, I didn't threaten. I just asked for a glass of water, and someone told me to shut up. I am 10 years old. I am human. I deserve respect." The words carried a rawness that pierced through the corporate atmosphere like a blade. It wasn't long before employees connected the dots. The child mentioned had to be the same one escorted out of headquarters yesterday. At first, there was hesitation. No one wanted to be the first to question official management narratives. But soon, junior staff began whispering, "She's right. A kid shouldn't be treated that way. Do you know how many times passengers complain but we just ignore it because management says so?" By midday, the story had gone viral within the company itself. Employees began sharing their own experiences. Flight attendants pressured to cut corners to meet unrealistic on-time performance goals. Maintenance staff told to stay silent about safety issues. Customer service agents disciplined for over-accommodating passengers. For the first time in years, Owens Global's workers weren't afraid to talk. They weren't talking to management. They were talking to each other. In a small break room in the Phoenix operations hub, Amanda Carter stared at her phone. She had been half expecting an angry email from Marcus about her loyalty, but instead she saw the anonymous message burning through the company like wildfire. Her heart sank as she read it again. The phrasing, it was so close to what Rebecca had actually said that day. Yet Amanda knew Rebecca didn't have access to corporate employee mailing lists, let alone the courage to write something like that so soon after being humiliated. She whispered to herself, "She didn't write this." Across from her, another flight attendant said quietly, "Good for her. Kid's got guts." Amanda didn't respond. She just kept scrolling, unease crawling up her spine. If Rebecca didn't send it, who did? In a dingy motel room outside the city, Ethan Cole watched his laptop screen as the email analytics ticked upward. Read receipts, forward chains, internal chat buzz. He leaned back, satisfied. On the wall behind him were pinned notes and printouts about Marcus Hill, Amanda Carter, and Owens Global's corporate culture. He stared at a photo of Richard Owens, Rebecca's father, shaking hands with dignitaries in a press release from years ago. Ethan muttered to himself, "Your company buried me, Richard, but maybe your daughter will dig it back up." His motives weren't entirely pure. He had a vendetta against Owens Global. Years ago, his investigative piece about maintenance fraud had been suppressed, and he had been blacklisted across the aviation industry. This email wasn't just about Rebecca. It was about cracking open the dam he'd been hammering at for a decade. But there was another truth he couldn't ignore. Seeing Rebecca humiliated on that plane had stirred something unexpected in him. She reminded him of why he became a journalist in the first place, to give a voice to people who couldn't fight back. By noon, internal messaging channels were flooded. A flight crew forum. "Did you see the email? I've been there. Passengers yelled at me, and management told me to suck it up. We're all told to prioritize VIPs and image over basic decency. Maybe this is a wake-up call." At Ground Ops Chat. "Anyone know who sent it? It says anonymous, no traceable account." "Doesn't matter. They're right. We need to start treating people better." Even some managers whispered cautiously behind closed doors, worried about what this internal rebellion might mean. Marcus Hill, however, wasn't whispering. He was shouting. "Find out who sent that email," he barked at the IT director. "This is sabotage. This is malicious interference with corporate communications." The IT director swallowed nervously. "We've tried, sir. Whoever sent it masked their identity and routed it through multiple proxy servers. It's professional." Marcus slammed his fist on the table. "Then find out who's helping them. No one does this alone." Meanwhile, Tom Yamaguchi stood at his workbench, eyes fixed on the message displayed on his cracked phone screen. He whispered, "Kid, I don't know what you're getting dragged into, but this is big." He remembered Rebecca's quiet, determined eyes when she was escorted out, and something twisted inside him. That girl's mother had courage. Maybe the kid inherited it. Back in the motel, Ethan opened a second secure email draft, fingers hovering over the keyboard. He could send more evidence he'd been compiling for years, documents about safety cover-ups, employee retaliation, financial fraud. But he hesitated. If he dumped everything now, he'd blow his chance to control the narrative. He needed to time it perfectly. First, build momentum, he thought, then deliver the knockout punch. He glanced at a photo taped above his laptop, a younger version of himself holding an investigative journalism award. He whispered, "You still got it, Cole. Just don't mess up this kid's life worse than it already is." Rebecca sat in her small bedroom at the hotel, hugging her knees as her tablet buzzed with notifications. She saw screenshots of the email. She hadn't written it, yet it spoke her truth exactly. Her hands trembled as she whispered, Who's helping me?" She didn't know about Ethan Cole yet. She didn't know he was playing a dangerous game with stakes much higher than her humiliation, but something in her heart felt lighter. Someone believed her. Someone had her back. And for the first time since boarding that flight, Rebecca smiled. Across the company, employees began whispering one name repeatedly. Not Marcus, not Amanda, but the child. The anonymous email had done more than express pain. It had ignited solidarity, the kind that corporate PR teams can't extinguish. But above it all loomed the biggest question yet. Who pressed send? And why? Marcus Hill stood at the head of the gleaming executive conference room, fingers drumming sharply against the polished oak table. Every senior manager and department head had been summoned without notice, and the tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. "This email stunt," Marcus barked, slamming his fist on the table, "has damaged Owens Global's reputation. Whoever is responsible will be held accountable. I want names, I want answers, and I want them now." A low murmur rippled through the room. Managers exchanged uneasy glances, but no one spoke. The IT director cleared his throat nervously. "Sir, we're still working to trace it." The sender masked their identity using multiple proxy servers. Whoever it is, they're good. Marcus narrowed his eyes. "Then double your team. Triple it if you have to. I don't care how you do it, just find them." The heavy doors at the back of the conference room opened suddenly. The entire room turned toward the interruption. Standing there, small but composed, was Rebecca Owens, dressed simply, holding a badge in one hand. Beside her was Eleanor Grant, one of the company's most respected board members, known for her integrity and cool-headedness. The room fell into stunned silence. Rebecca stepped forward, her voice calm but clear. "You don't need to keep searching, Mr. Hill, because the child you labeled as disruptive, the one you had thrown out of this building, is me." Marcus blinked, his jaw tightening. "Security should not have let you back in." Eleanor placed a hand on Rebecca's shoulder, her gaze cold and unwavering. "She is here as my guest, Marcus. And as the legal heir to this company, she has every right to be here." The room erupted in whispers. Rebecca stepped forward and placed the badge on the table. It gleamed under the conference lights. Rebecca Owens, owner's successor. Gasps filled the room. Marcus's face went pale for just a fraction of a second before he recovered his corporate smile. "Owner's successor or not," he said smoothly, "we're in the middle of an internal investigation. This is hardly the place." His words were cut off by the sudden buzz of phones and laptops throughout the room. Screens lit up as notifications poured in. On the main presentation screen, without anyone touching it, a video began to play. The footage was crystal clear. Amanda Carter leaning toward Rebecca on the plane, her voice sharp and echoing. "Shut up, kid!" The entire cabin froze in the video. Passengers looked away, pretending not to notice. Rebecca's small figure sat silently, eyes wide in shock. Gasps filled the room, followed by an immediate roar of conversation. Several employees instinctively covered their mouths. Others shook their heads in disbelief. It wasn't just the people in the room seeing it. Social media feeds were already exploding as the video streamed in real time from multiple platforms. Whoever had triggered this knew exactly what they were doing. In the corner of the room, Ethan Cole, the mysterious man who had recorded it, stood leaning against the wall. He stepped forward now, revealing himself to everyone. "I'm the one who sent the video," he said evenly, his phone still in hand. "Because the world deserves to know how this company treats people when no one's watching." Marcus's face flushed crimson. "Who are you?" Ethan smiled faintly. "A journalist who used to investigate corporate corruption. A journalist your people blacklisted years ago." Gasps again. The managers in the room exchanged wary looks, realizing just how far this problem had spiraled. Amanda Carter, seated near the end of the table, covered her mouth, eyes brimming with tears. "Oh my God," she whispered. Rebecca turned to Amanda. Their eyes met briefly. Rebecca's gaze wasn't angry, but deeply sad. Amanda stood suddenly. I was wrong," she said, her voice trembling. "I signed that false report because Marcus pressured me, but this is the truth. That little girl didn't do anything wrong." The room went dead silent as Marcus's control over the narrative began to unravel. Eleanor stepped forward, her voice sharp as a blade. "Marcus Hill, this board entrusted you to uphold the company's values. Instead, you've orchestrated cover-ups, coerced employees into lying, and humiliated the rightful heir to this company. Explain yourself." Marcus stammered. This is being taken out of context. She's just a child." Rebecca's voice cut him off. "A child who watched her mother endure discrimination. A child who believed in this company because of my father. And a child you tried to silence." Phones buzzed again. Hashtags were trending globally within minutes. "Shut up, kid, Nar Owens, global truth. Respect all passengers." Employees' private chat channels exploded, sharing the video and expressing outrage. "I can't believe this happened in first class. She's the heir, and they treated her like that? This is going to destroy Marcus." Amanda turned to Rebecca, tears streaking her face. "I'm sorry, I really am." Rebecca gave a small nod. "Do the right thing now. Tell the truth." Amanda reached into her bag, pulling out her phone. "I recorded Marcus threatening me, forcing me to sign that report. If you want the truth, here it is." She tapped play, and Marcus's own voice filled the room. Sign it or lose your job. The silence that followed was deafening. Eleanor looked directly at Marcus. You're suspended, effective immediately. Security, escort Mr. Hill out. Marcus's eyes darted wildly around the room, looking for someone to back him up, but no one moved. Even his closest allies stared down at their hands. This isn't over, he hissed as guards stepped forward. But the tremor in his voice betrayed him. Rebecca stood quietly, hands clasped, watching him go. For the first time since that humiliating day on the plane, she felt power return. Not the power of revenge, but of truth. Ethan slipped her a small nod from across the room, as if to say, Your move now, kid. Rebecca exhaled slowly. The war wasn't over, but the battlefield had shifted. The conference room hadn't cooled since Marcus Hill had been escorted out. Whispers rippled through the crowd like aftershocks following an earthquake. Everyone was still trying to process what had just happened when Tom Yamaguchi walked in, holding a weathered brown folder. Tom looked exhausted but resolute, his jumpsuit still stained with grease. He set the folder on the table and opened it without ceremony. Before we all go back to pretending things are normal, he said, you need to see this. Inside were spreadsheets, maintenance logs, and internal reports, each marked with signatures and timestamps that traced back to Marcus Hill's office. Tom's voice hardened. These are manipulated safety records. Flights cleared to depart with known mechanical issues, all so Marcus could meet his perfect on-time departure targets. He pressured staff to falsify reports and punished anyone who questioned it. I know because I was one of those people he punished. Gasps erupted. One board member muttered, If this is true, it's criminal. Eleanor Grant, who had stood behind Rebecca like a silent guardian, flipped through the pages and nodded grimly. This aligns with whispers I've been hearing for months, but couldn't confirm. Tom hesitated, then added, and that's not all. There are dozens of complaints of discrimination swept under the rug. Passengers targeted, staff silenced. It's all here. At the far side of the room, Ethan Cole, the man who had recorded the infamous "shut up, kid" moment, took a step forward. He adjusted his jacket, his expression unreadable. I have something to add, Ethan said, pulling up a file on his laptop. 10 years ago, I was an aviation journalist. I broke stories about safety shortcuts in this very company, and Marcus Hill made sure I paid for it. He leaked false information about me, planted fabricated evidence, and destroyed my reputation. I was blacklisted overnight. A stunned silence followed. Rebecca blinked, processing the revelation. So, you helped me to get revenge on him? Ethan looked directly at her, shame flickering across his eyes. At first, yes, I wanted Marcus to suffer, but then I saw you, what he did to you, and it stopped being about me. You reminded me why I became a journalist in the first place, to protect people who don't have power. Rebecca studied him for a long moment, her youthful face unreadable. So you used me to get back at him, but you also gave me a voice I didn't have. That means something. Ethan lowered his gaze, unable to meet her eyes. Amanda Carter stood abruptly, holding her phone like it was burning her hand. I can't keep this to myself anymore, she said, tears welling up. She played the recording she had previously given Rebecca, a chilling audio clip of Marcus threatening her. Sign it or lose your job. The kid's a problem, and if you don't help me handle it, you'll regret it. Gasps echoed again. Amanda's voice cracked as she said, He promised me a promotion if I went along. I thought I was protecting my career, but all I did was destroy my own integrity. I'm done protecting him. Rebecca looked at Amanda quietly. Thank you for choosing to do the right thing now. Amanda nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. I can't undo what I did, but I can start making it right. The boardroom's giant screen flashed again, showing the flood of social media reactions. Hashtags still trending, videos being shared millions of times, and public outrage building by the hour. News outlets were already calling it the "Shut Up Kid" scandal. Eleanor Grant turned to the group, her voice steady and commanding. Based on the evidence provided by Mr. Yamaguchi, Ms. Carter, and Mr. Cole, Marcus Hill is suspended indefinitely pending investigation into criminal charges. I will personally ensure law enforcement is briefed. Applause broke out, not loud, but firm and united. For the first time in years, many of these employees felt like they could breathe. But the brief sense of relief shattered when Marcus, escorted back into the room by security to collect his things, stopped by Rebecca. He leaned down slightly so only she could hear, his voice low and poisonous. "You think you've won because you embarrassed me? Because you caught one recording? Little girl, you don't even know what game you've stepped into." Rebecca stiffened but held his gaze. Marcus smirked faintly. "This isn't over. You're playing checkers while I'm playing chess. The game," he whispered, "has only just begun." For a moment, Rebecca's breath caught. There was no bluster in his tone. It was a promise, cold and deliberate. He straightened up, smiled a thin, fake smile for the rest of the room, and walked out, escorted by security. Rebecca sank into a chair, her small hand clenched tightly in her lap. She had exposed Marcus. She had spoken her truth, but now a darker shadow loomed. Marcus wasn't finished. Tom placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You did good, kid. Don't let him scare you. People like that, they always think they're untouchable until they're not." Ethan spoke softly. "He's right about one thing. This is bigger than either of us thought. He's connected, and he's not going quietly." Rebecca looked at Ethan, her eyes suddenly fierce despite her age. "Then we won't go quietly either." Amanda sat back down, wiping her eyes. "You're not alone anymore, Rebecca. I won't run from this. Whatever happens next, I'm standing with you." Tom nodded. "Same here. I've been waiting for years for someone to stand up to Marcus. Guess I didn't expect it to be a 10-year-old girl." Rebecca allowed herself a small smile, though her stomach still churned from Marcus's whispered threat. Outside the glass walls of the conference room, employees stood in clusters, whispering and pointing. Word had already spread. Marcus Hill had been suspended. Amanda had confessed, Tom had exposed fraud, and the little girl humiliated in first class was, in fact, the heir to the entire company. For some, it was vindication. For others, it was fear. And for Rebecca Owens, it was just the beginning. The internet burned like wildfire. Every social media platform, every news site, every live stream was fixated on one thing. The now viral video of Amanda Carter shouting, "Shut up, kid," and the emotional story of a 10-year-old girl who turned out to be the heir to Owens Global Airlines. Within hours, hashtags dominated worldwide trends. Hashtag Sky for everyone. Shut up, kid. Respect all passengers. The story wasn't just about one humiliating incident anymore. It had become a symbol, how corporations treat people, how power can silence the vulnerable. Owens Global's stock price plummeted by 12% in a single trading session, the steepest fall in the company's history. Television anchors shook their heads in disbelief. An airline founded on respect and inclusion, now facing the greatest reputational crisis of its existence. In the executive wing, board members moved like frantic ghosts. Eleanor Grant paced the room, phone pressed to her ear. "Yes, I understand, Senator, and I promise we'll address this swiftly." She hung up and turned to Rebecca, who sat quietly in one of the oversized leather chairs, legs barely reaching the floor. "Rebecca," Eleanor said gently, "I know you're only 10, but this is your company now, at least in the public's eyes. The board is unanimous. We need you to hold a press conference." Rebecca blinked. "Me? I'm just a kid. I didn't even do anything wrong." Eleanor crouched to meet her eyes. "And that's why it has to be you. The world doesn't want another corporate statement. They want to see the girl who stood silent in first class, the girl who represents the change they're hoping for." The room was silent except for the soft hum of phones buzzing with notifications. Then Amanda stepped forward, still pale from her own guilt. "Rebecca, if you go out there, I'll stand with you. I need to make this right, too." Rebecca hesitated. Will people even believe me? Before Eleanor could answer, Ethan Cole, the former journalist, barged in holding his laptop. We have a bigger problem, he said grimly. On his screen was an email, forwarded dozens of times, already trending on social media. The subject line read, "The truth behind Hatch Shut Up Kid." Ethan clicked it open. The contents were chilling. Insiders confirm Rebecca Owens staged the entire incident. She hired me to record it and paid Amanda Carter to play along, all to gain public sympathy and force a management shakeup. The email was signed by anonymous employee, and it was spreading like poison. Amanda gasped. That's insane! I never… Ethan cut her off. I ran a quick trace. Whoever sent this used the same kind of obfuscation Marcus's old IT team was famous for. Tom Yamaguchi, who had been leaning against the wall silently, muttered, "So he's still pulling strings, even from outside." The reaction online was immediate. A new hashtag emerged, @RebeccaHoax. News outlets, hungry for clicks, reported the accusation with headlines like, "Was it all a setup?" and "Corporate scandal or child's master plan?" Rebecca's stomach knotted. They think I lied? That I planned all of this? Ethan knelt next to her. That's what Marcus wants. This isn't about the truth. It's about muddying the water so no one knows what to believe. Amanda clenched her fists. We have to fight back. I'll go public, tell them exactly what happened. Eleanor shook her head. Not yet. If we rush out there without proof, they'll say we're covering it up. Rebecca, the press conference is even more important now. We have to show them your heart, your truth. Rebecca's breathing quickened. She was 10 years old, and yet the weight of a multi-billion-dollar company, a global scandal, and now a vicious smear campaign, all pressed on her small shoulders. She thought about her mom, about how she'd faced discrimination but still smiled through it, still believed in people. Rebecca clenched her fists the same way her mom used to before big speeches at charity events. Okay, she said finally, voice trembling but determined. I'll do it. The next day, bright camera lights blinded her as Rebecca stepped onto the stage. A sea of reporters and flashing bulbs stretched out in front of her. The podium seemed too tall, but Eleanor had arranged a step so Rebecca could stand confidently. She took a deep breath, gripping the edge of the podium. My name is Rebecca Owens, she began, her voice steady but soft. A week ago, I got on a plane to see what it was like to travel as just another passenger. I didn't tell anyone who I was because I wanted to be treated like everyone else. What happened hurt, but what's happening now hurts even more. She paused, letting her words settle. Someone said I staged it, that I paid someone to hurt me on purpose. That's not true. I'm only 10 years old. I didn't plan anything. I just wanted a glass of water. Amanda, standing nearby, stepped forward. She's telling the truth. I yelled at her because I let anger and stress get the better of me, and Marcus Hill pressured me to lie about it later. I regret everything. Rebecca didn't deserve any of it. A murmur swept the press pool. Rebecca continued, voice shaking but growing stronger. This isn't about me. It's about every passenger who's ever felt invisible, every employee scared to speak up. I'm here to say this company can do better, and it will. The live stream chat exploded with supportive comments. She's just a kid, leave her alone. Powerful speech for a 10-year-old. Marcus Hill is clearly behind the smear. But in the shadows of the internet, bots and anonymous accounts kept pushing the fake email. Marcus's influence was still alive, subtle and corrosive. Backstage after the press conference, Ethan pulled Rebecca aside. You did great out there, but this war isn't over. Marcus has resources. He's going to keep attacking you because you embarrassed him publicly. Rebecca straightened her small shoulders. Then we keep telling the truth, louder than he tells his lies. Tom stepped up beside them. Kid's right. We've got allies now. Inside and outside. Marcus won't see us coming next time. Rebecca smiled faintly, though her stomach still twisted with fear. She was only 10, but already she understood. This wasn't just about one flight, one insult. It was about power and people willing to abuse it. And Marcus Hill wasn't done. Somewhere far away, Marcus sat in an expensive restaurant, phone in hand, smiling at a news alert about the fake email. He whispered to himself, "Your move, kid." Rebecca sat on the edge of the studio chair, feet barely reaching the floor. Bright lights from the television set shone down like miniature suns. But she kept her back straight and hands folded tightly in her lap. A makeup artist tried to pat her cheeks, but Rebecca shook her head. "I want to look like me," she said softly, "not a TV person." Eleanor Grant smiled faintly from the corner of the room. "You already look perfect, Rebecca. Just be yourself out there. That's what people need to see." The red light blinked on. Rebecca blinked once, took a breath, and looked straight at the camera. "My name is Rebecca Owens," she said, her voice steady despite her pounding heart. "I'm 10 years old. I flew on an airplane because I wanted to know what it was like to be just another passenger. I didn't tell anyone who I was because I didn't want special treatment. I just wanted to be treated like everyone else." She paused, hands trembling slightly. "But what happened that day made me feel small, invisible, like I didn't matter. And now there are people saying I planned it all, that I paid someone to hurt me on purpose. That's not true. I'm only a kid. I don't want power or fame. I just want to be respected, like every passenger should be." On social media, live comments streamed faster than the show's producers could read. "She's so brave. This is breaking my heart. Why are adults attacking a 10-year-old? Then came the moment no one expected. Amanda Carter, still in her airline uniform, walked onto the stage unannounced. The host glanced at the producer, but Rebecca turned and simply stared. Amanda stopped a few feet away, visibly nervous, holding a microphone in both hands. "I wasn't supposed to be here," Amanda began, her voice shaking. "But I can't stay silent anymore." The studio froze, and every viewer leaned closer to their screens. Amanda took a deep breath. "That day on the plane, I yelled at Rebecca. I humiliated a child because I was angry and frustrated, and I took it out on someone who didn't deserve it. But what's worse is that after, Marcus Hill pressured me to lie. He promised me a promotion if I signed false statements saying Rebecca caused the incident. And I did it, because I was scared of losing my job." Gasps rippled through the audience, and the host's jaw dropped. Amanda looked straight at the camera, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm sorry, Rebecca. I'm sorry to every passenger I failed to respect, and to every employee I hurt by being part of this toxic culture. Marcus Hill lied to me, used me, and I let him. But I won't anymore. This company needs to change, and it starts with telling the truth. I was wrong. Rebecca told the truth." Rebecca blinked, her eyes filling with tears. Not of sadness, but relief. For the first time since the incident, someone who had hurt her stood up publicly and said the words she needed to hear. "I'm sorry." The host leaned forward. "Amanda, are you saying Marcus Hill orchestrated a cover-up?" Amanda nodded. "Yes. He told me, word for word. Blame the kid, and you'll have your promotion by next quarter." I recorded that conversation because even then, I knew it was wrong. I gave that recording to Rebecca and to the board. Social media erupted instantly. Hashtags shifted in real time. #Amanda speaks. Truth #respect. Rebecca #Marcus exposed public opinion swung hard, faster than anyone anticipated. Commentators on competing networks replayed Amanda's confession repeatedly, calling it a corporate culture bombshell. In the control room, Ethan Cole whispered to Eleanor, "That just killed Marcus's smear campaign in one stroke. No one's going to believe that fake email anymore." Eleanor exhaled, tension leaving her shoulders for the first time in days. This might actually turn the tide. Rebecca turned to Amanda, eyes wide and soft. "Thank you," she whispered, barely audible. Amanda nodded, tears slipping down her face. "No, thank you for being braver than me." The host closed out the segment with a stunned look still on her face. "Ladies and gentlemen, You just witnessed a powerful moment of honesty and courage. This changes everything." By the time Rebecca stepped off the stage, the internet had already crowned her the unlikely hero of the week. Memes popped up comparing her small frame at the podium to historic figures standing for justice. News articles carried headlines like, "Child Heir Defends Truth. Airline Employee Confesses Cover-Up Live on Air. Corporate Crisis Turns Corner with Emotional Apology." The company's share price, which had been in free fall, began to recover slightly as investors sensed public trust could be rebuilt. Backstage, Amanda approached Rebecca again, this time away from the cameras. "You didn't have to forgive me on camera," she said softly, "but you looked at me like I still had a chance to do better." Rebecca smiled faintly. "My mom used to say, sometimes the best way to fix something broken is to admit it's broken first. You did that today." Amanda sniffled, looking down. "I want to help. Whatever you do next, I'm in." Outside the studio, hundreds of airline employees gathered with signs. "We stand with Rebecca. No more Marcus culture. Respect for all passengers." Tom Yamaguchi stood among them, pride shining in his eyes. "Kid," he muttered under his breath, watching the live stream on his phone. "You just did what the rest of us couldn't for years." But somewhere, watching the broadcast from a sleek penthouse, Marcus Hill slammed his glass of scotch on the table. The liquid spilled, but he didn't notice. His eyes were fixed on Amanda's tear-streaked face on the TV. "So, that's how it's going to be," he muttered. "Fine. If they want war, I'll give them one." His phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Next step ready when you are." Marcus smiled coldly. Rebecca, meanwhile, sat quietly in the car on the way back to headquarters. She felt lighter, hopeful even, but deep down, she sensed Marcus's shadow still looming. Today was a victory, but it wasn't the end. Rebecca Owens sat in the largest boardroom of Owens Global Airlines, legs swinging under the massive table. Around her, executives and board members whispered to one another, still adjusting to the fact that the voice they were about to hear belonged to a 10-year-old girl, the heir of the company. Her father, Richard Owens, placed a hand on her shoulder. "You ready, Rebecca?" he asked softly. Rebecca looked at him and nodded. "Yes, I've been ready since the day they told me to shut up." The room went silent. Rebecca stood on a small platform at the head of the table. "What happened to me on that flight," she began, "shouldn't happen to anyone. Not to a child, not to an adult, not to anyone. This company started with a promise, to connect people and treat every passenger with dignity. But somewhere along the way, we forgot that." She paused, looking at every face in the room. "That's why today, I'm launching Speak Up, a program that will protect passengers and employees who feel silenced. Anyone from the lowest-ranking employee to the highest-paying passenger can report discrimination, harassment, or mistreatment without fear of retaliation. And we'll act on it." A murmur ran through the room, but Rebecca raised her hand to quiet it. "I'm 10. I don't know everything about running an airline, but I know what it feels like when no one listens. That ends today." The announcement spread like lightning. Social media exploded with praise. Speak Up trended globally within hours, accompanied by comments like, "She's changing things at 10. What's our excuse?" Corporate America, take notes. The program included anonymous reporting channels, immediate support for whistleblowers, and a dedicated ethics team. Employees who had remained silent for years began submitting stories, some heartbreaking, some hopeful. For the first time, people believed change was possible. 2 days later, Amanda Carter walked into the training facility. She no longer wore the crisp uniform of a senior attendant. Instead, she wore the simple Navy trainee outfit, a badge that read, "Junior Trainee, Amanda Carter." A few younger recruits whispered when they saw her, recognizing her face from viral videos and her emotional apology. Amanda took a deep breath and addressed them directly. "You've probably seen me on the news. I don't blame you if you don't trust me yet, but I'm here to learn everything again, from zero. And this time, I'll do it right." Her new supervisor, a stern woman named Maria, nodded approvingly. Humility is step 1. Service from the heart is step 2. If you pass both, you might just make it back into the sky. On her first day, Amanda practiced greeting passengers, delivering drinks, and managing stressful situations. But there was one big difference. She smiled. Not the forced corporate smile, but one that came from trying to genuinely care. When a fellow trainee spilled juice on her, Amanda laughed instead of snapping. "Don't worry, I've done worse," she said, earning an awkward but grateful grin. Meanwhile, Tom Yamaguchi was summoned to the executive floor. "I'm a mechanic, not a suit wearer," he grumbled as he stepped into the pristine hallway. Richard Owens greeted him personally. "Tom, you've been with us for 30 years. You've never hesitated to speak the truth, even when it was unpopular. That's exactly what this company needs now." Tom frowned. "You're not firing me, are you?" Rebecca giggled from behind Richard. "No, Mr. Tom. We're promoting you." Tom blinked. "Promoting me? To what? Head of broken airplane jokes?" Richard handed him a folder. "Director of Corporate Culture and Employee Experience." Tom nearly choked. "Culture? I'm a grease monkey, kid." Rebecca smiled. "You're someone who helped my mom when people treated her badly. You're someone who helped me when I got lost. If you could care about people then, you can help everyone care about each other now." Tom scratched his head. "Well, guess I'll have to buy a tie." The news of Amanda's second chance and Tom's promotion brought a wave of unexpected warmth. Commentators said, "It's not just about punishing bad actors. It's about reforming them and rewarding integrity." Employees began to submit ideas to improve passenger experience. One suggested translation tablets for non-English speaking passengers. Another proposed a mentorship program for new hires focused on empathy, not just efficiency. Rebecca listened to every proposal, scribbling notes with her favorite glitter pen. "If we're going to make this company better," she said, "it has to come from everyone, not just me." One afternoon, Amanda ran into Rebecca near the break room. "I wanted to thank you again," Amanda said softly. "You didn't have to give me another chance. I don't know if I deserve it." Rebecca shook her head. "You messed up, but you told the truth. That's what Speak Up is about. It's not just for people who are hurt, but also for people who want to change. You're proof that we can be better." Amanda's eyes welled up, but she smiled. "I'll make sure you don't regret it." Hope restored. By the end of the week, employee surveys reported a 60% jump in workplace morale. Passengers posted stories about kind and attentive flight crews, about being listened to when problems arose. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Rebecca sat on the balcony of her father's office, watching planes take off into the sunset. "Mom would be proud, wouldn't she?" she whispered. Richard put an arm around her. "She'd be proud of you every day, Rebecca. You turned pain into change. That's rare, even for adults." Rebecca smiled, clutching her Speak Up badge. "We're just getting started." Far away, Marcus Hill watched the news coverage on his tablet, jaw tight but eyes calculating. His empire of influence had cracked, but it hadn't fallen. Not yet, and he wasn't done fighting. The chapter ended not with anger, but with quiet optimism. Employees felt seen, passengers felt heard, and for the first time since that fateful flight, the company seemed to have a soul again. A year had passed since the day a frightened 10-year-old girl was told to shut up in front of an entire first-class cabin. The world, and Owens Global Airlines, was no longer the same. On Flight 417 bound for Chicago, a young immigrant couple struggled with their limited English, nervously clutching a stack of translated papers. Instead of impatient sighs or dismissive glares, a smiling flight attendant crouched down to their level. "Would you like me to use translation mode?" she asked, switching on her tablet. She patiently guided them through their boarding process and made sure they had everything they needed. Nearby, another attendant gently assisted an elderly passenger, holding her hand while helping her store her luggage. There were no groans, no cold stares, just patience and genuine kindness. In seat 23A, Rebecca Owens sat quietly, a baseball cap pulled low over her eyes. This time, she wasn't flying first class. She was in economy, just another passenger among dozens, and she smiled. Rebecca had changed too. She was still 10, her birthday barely a month away. But the timid girl who once sat silently, afraid to respond to cruelty, was gone. The events of the past year had forged her into someone confident yet compassionate. She still carried her journal, but instead of filling it with lonely thoughts, it now brimmed with ideas for improving passenger experience and notes about the lives of employees she'd met. On this flight, she quietly observed the cabin crew, how they spoke gently, how they helped without being asked, how they carried themselves with pride. She thought of her mom and whispered softly, "We're doing it, Mom. We're really doing it." Back on the ground, in Owen's global headquarters, an email alert pinged across all employees' screens. "Welcome Ethan Cole, Director of Transparency and Information Integrity." Ethan Cole, the mysterious passenger who had filmed the viral video that started it all, walked through the lobby with an official badge hanging from his neck. A year ago, he'd been a former aviation reporter, blacklisted and jobless because Marcus Hill had silenced him. Now, he was returning, not as a journalist, but as an executive tasked with ensuring the company's future remained transparent. When a young employee asked him why he came back, Ethan simply replied, "Because when a 10-year-old girl stands up for what's right, you don't stay on the sidelines. You stand with her." Amanda Carter, once disgraced, now worked as a senior trainer for new flight attendants. She wore her uniform with humility and pride. Her classes were different from the old ones, less about strict policy and more about empathy, cultural awareness, and how to truly listen to passengers. When asked about her journey, she often said, "Rebecca forgave me before I forgave myself. That's why I teach every recruit. Mistakes happen, but honesty and kindness fix them." Her recruits adored her. Many said Amanda's class was the reason they joined the airline in the first place. On the plane, Rebecca leaned back as the engines roared. She watched as an attendant offered a free meal to the immigrant couple and found a coloring book for their restless child. In the aisle, another attendant knelt to help a disabled passenger secure his seatbelt. The atmosphere felt different, lighter, warmer, like the cabin itself had learned how to breathe again. Rebecca opened her notebook and wrote just 3 words. It worked. The engines grew louder as the plane accelerated. Outside the window, the horizon was painted gold by the rising sun. When the plane leveled off, Rebecca received a notification on her phone. It was a message from her father. "Ethan signed today. Official now. Transparency Division is live." She grinned and leaned against the window. The man who had once been silenced now led the department, ensuring no voice would ever be silenced again. The circle had closed, not with revenge, but with restoration. The captain's voice echoed through the cabin. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are now cruising at 36,000 feet. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight." Rebecca gazed out at the endless sky, eyes shining. A year ago, she had been a symbol of corporate failure and cruelty. Now, she was the quiet heart of a movement that had changed an entire culture. Passengers laughed, attendants smiled, and an airline once infamous for its coldness had become a model for compassion. Rebecca whispered to herself, so quietly no one else could hear, "Sky really belongs to everyone." The plane tilted slightly, climbing higher, slicing through soft clouds toward the endless sunrise. And for the first time in a long time, Rebecca closed her eyes and rested. Not because she was tired, but because she felt safe. The story didn't end there, it couldn't. Because change, like flight, is ongoing. But at least for this moment, the sky truly belonged to everyone.